Welcome to another edition of Radio Influencers, a podcast series we're doing for Radio Update. I'm your host, Andy Meadows. On this episode, I'm going to expand on an article I wrote last year entitled Radio Should Be Fun and discuss some of the ways we can put the joy back in radio. But first, let's look at some of the results from our recent Weekly Wire and Weekend Wire Radio Update polls. By the way, if you don't subscribe to our newsletter, go to radioupdate.com and click the envelope icon under the socials on the right-hand side. It's free and we will not bombard you. Just one on Wednesday and one on Saturday at 10 a.m. featuring content you'll hopefully find relevant and compelling. In last Wednesday's Weekly Wire, we asked a hotly debated topic that tied into last week's The End of Gigantic Radio Groups episode. Should the FCC deregulate radio ownership caps? A slight majority of the radio decision makers who responded said no, 52.7%. 47.3% believe that yes, they should. We're recording this on Sunday, but we already have some initial response from yesterday's Weekend Wire question. What percentage of your sales staff regularly hit their goals? The number one answer was 0 to 33% with 35.6% of the vote. Number two was 34 to 66% with 34.2% of the vote. And number three was 67 to 100% with 30.1%. Still a pretty high number with 2/3 of the reps hitting their goals. Now let's get into today's topic. If you have any questions after watching or listening, email them to me at andy@radiostationconsultant.com or editor@radioupdate.com, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Let's face it, one of the reasons many of us got into this industry is because it sounds fun. Get paid to talk on the radio and listen to music? Sign me up, right? That's why we all joke it's better than a real job. Of course, those of us who've done this for a while know full well that it is a job, not just a fun hobby, at least if you want to make a living and get to do this as a career for years and years. There are always going to be some part of our daily responsibilities in radio that do make it feel just like any old job, like the procedural stuff. Although the more we can use AI to help handle that stuff, the better. If you're watching this and saying to yourself, I've been working in radio for years and it's not fun anymore, here are a few suggestions to turn that around. Get out of the building. In my experience, the majority of radio stations I come across that have lost their mojo, if you will, did so because they barely ever leave their building. Don't get me wrong, it's admirable to lock yourself in the station for 12 hours a day, every day to keep the place running, but it's not sustainable, healthy, or the best thing for the radio station. We cannot effectively manage, program, market, or sell our radio stations if we're not regularly getting in front of our audience and advertisers to interact with them and get their feedback on our product. Obviously, we should never make changes to that product based on the feedback from a few people. We've all worked for someone who would go to the dentist and come back and make us drop all the songs by a particular artist because the dentist said we play too much of them. But when there are common themes in the aggregate, we should absolutely change accordingly. And to see that, we have to engage and interact with lots of people. Besides, station events and on-site promotions are fun. I know that because I talk to tons of radio people who've been doing this for 20 plus years, and many of the stories they recall that bring a big old smile to their face revolve around a station promotion or event. Plus, there are several other benefits to getting out in the community. It's great branding, can help raise awareness of a key community issue, and it will absolutely set you apart from not only the other radio stations in town who've likely stopped doing all of that, it will also set you apart from digital competitors who cannot. Another key fun way we should all get out of our building is to go to conventions. I say it a lot because I think it's critical for the health of our industry that more radio people go to these things. Everyone in radio should at the very least go to their state broadcast convention every year, if they're lucky enough to live in a state that still does them. I live in Texas, and ours is phenomenal. And at least one national radio convention every year if they can afford it. If not, at least every other year. You get to see all the latest innovations, and the fact that many of them are leaning into digital and the creator economy stuff is no reason to stay away, because we all need to steal as many ideas as possible from the people who have been stealing ideas from broadcasters for years. Every time I run into a radio person I know towards the end of a convention, they are having fun, they're energized, and most importantly, they are full of ideas. The key, of course, is to take those ideas back home and actually act on them. Another key to make radio more fun is to outsource inefficiencies. This is a great book about time management that I highly recommend. Free to Focus, a total productivity system to achieve more by doing less. It's written by Michael Hyatt, and he talks about how none of us are good at everything, and no one likes everything they do. He breaks down how to identify the things we enjoy that we're also good at and focus on those things and outsource as much of the things we're good at but hate doing or not good at all. With budgets tight and manpower low right now in radio, it's easy to fall into the trap of doing literally everything ourselves. But when we do that, we inevitably end up spending the bulk of our time bogged down in a couple of things we don't have a passion or an aptitude for. Identifying those things and finding affordable ways to outsource them, using AI to help, or hiring someone who does have a passion and aptitude for them, will not only make us more productive, it will also make our jobs fun again. Using AI tools is intimidating at first, but it quickly becomes fun as it starts to get your creative juices flowing, thinking about all the fun things you can create with it. Riverside, the platform we record this podcast on, just added the ability to turn the social reels it uses AI to pull from each episode into fun animation. For instance, here's me as a puppet. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little worried about what radio will look like by then. Here's John Reynolds, who hosts our Video Tips and Tricks series as a glossy cartoon character.
Something else I really love about this is the two-shot. So when they're behind Zane,
here's Brent Hudenpyle from our Persuading for Profits sales podcast as a baby.
Here's the deal. Radio station advertising, if you do it right, it's branded advertising.
If we all put cameras in our studios and had our talent roll everything into Riverside, they could finish their shifts, hit a button to pull their reels from social, and then hit another button to turn a few of them into fun animation like this that's more likely to go viral. The magic of radio. There's a reason we all got into this business. Something about it seemed magical to us. Maybe it was the idea of communicating with the masses live every day, doing a funny bit on the air that people would stop us in the grocery store to recount, or hanging out backstage at big events. On the other side of the building, maybe it was the thrill of the sale or the feeling of putting together a cost-effective advertising solution for a mom-and-pop business that drives traffic and helps their cash register ring. Whatever it was, we would all be better served if we found a way to recapture some of that magic to help relight our competitive fires. Doing so isn't only essential to our happiness and well-being, it's also essential to our survival as an industry as we face stronger competition than ever from outside forces. Plus, it's contagious to the people on the other side of the radio who still think we have the coolest jobs on earth, many of whom envy what we do and use listening to us as an escape as they drive to a job that they don't particularly love. So let's not kill that magic for them by becoming someone who hates what they do every day. What do you think? How are you making radio more fun at the local level? Email me at andy@radiostationconsultant.com or editor@radioupdate.com and let me know. As always, if you have some thoughts you'd like to share on this or any other hot radio topic, submit an article about it by emailing submissions@radioupdate.com. Thanks for listening, watching, and reading. We'll be back next week with a new episode of Radio Influencers. Radio Influencers is a radio update production. New episodes are released on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.